Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another Winging It podcast, episode 63. As you can tell by the ticker, it's that time of year again. Action
hmm
Jack, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How about yourself, man?
I am doing well. So, Andre will be joining a little later. So be prepared for that when he jumps in. So, before we get started, if you called it, we did do a live reaction for the Monster Hunter thing. All I want to say is I don't understand why we have a monster that's clearly a jet engine.
I need to watch it. I'm slipping. I'm slipping because
Yeah,
I told myself I was gonna go watch it, but I didn't. I haven't
yeah.
watched it yet.
So we did that one and the Sonic one. The Sonic one wasn't bad. You guys can go back and
Right.
check those reactions that we did to those. There was a Dragon Quest thing that happened. I did not watch it,
Mhm.
unfortunately. I did see the highlights though. Yay.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to talk about too much about it. I didn't see it
I
live,
didn't
so
care. I mean, I didn't see any of it. I'm seeing tidbits now because I'm scrolling through my phone now. And I mean, Dragon Quest is cool, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm the biggest fan of Dragon Quest.
yeah, yeah. It's something for the and a lot of people didn't really rock with Dragon Quest like that. I
Mhm.
played some of them because I'm
Right.
a fan of Akira Toriyama.
hmm
So, if you don't know who that is the creator of Dragon Ball, of the Dragon Ball
Exactly.
series.
You
All
can
that
see all
artwork
of
is
it too.
his.
You can
Yeah,
see all of it.
yeah, yeah. The only thing they haven't done is turn somebody Super Saiyan. They have done Kaioken.
You might as well say Dragon Quest Builders. The
yeah,
character is literally Super Saiyan.
yeah.
That's yeah.
Give you that. Give you that.
Yeah.
The other one that happened last week. See, we got a lot of stuff last week.
hmm
Sony had a state of play for Horizon. I enjoyed it. I couldn't do that one live because I was at work at the time, but I did watch it later that night. It wasn't bad. And to the people that are complaining about how Alloy looks, um, first of all, first of all, you're looking at a still image.
Correct.
Control your damn self. Second of
Right.
all, you telling on yourself. This quarantine done mess with you, boy. You telling on yourself.
Right.
Thirdly, in motion, she looks great. What's the
Yep.
problem? What the hell's the problem?
Because 30 frames per second isn't playable. I need 60. Hell, I even need 120 because when 120 comes out, I can't touch 60 either. This is only top notch gaming over here, Jay. I paid $500 for these consoles. Yeah, I paid 300, 400, maybe even 700 for previous consoles, but at this one I paid five. They told me I was getting 8K, 4K ray trace. They told me I was getting all the A's and everything out here. Triple A, quadruple A. With the Xbox, I'm getting double A batteries. I'm doing all this stuff. Yeah, this is stupid, man.
Yeah, personally, I like it. It looks great. We don't have a release date because it's probably not coming out till next year.
But here's the thing that I find very funny.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest argument before these consoles came out, right, was regarding the Series S, holding back the Series X because of its specs, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Now,
remember
I
that. Yeah.
haven't heard anything in regards to Forbidden West being held back now that it's on the PS4 as well.
You're not going to because it's not holding it back.
I'm
Bruh,
just curious because
here's
that
the
came from the
thing.
Sony crowd. They were the ones that said it.
Here's the thing. If you think Sony is dumb enough to ignore 100 and what is it, 20 million
Yeah, and
base
and
in the
rising,
PS4
and rising.
on the PS4, do you really think they're dumb enough to alienate them? How many has the PS5 sold? Like 30, I think, if that. I don't even think they
No,
got
it's not
that.
that close. No, it's not that close yet.
I
I
don't even
think
think that. That's me
it's
being nice.
right. I mean, it's up there. It's pretty like the high tens,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
So
Yeah.
so which one is bigger? 10 million plus or 130 million? Which one's bigger? So
Right.
if you are a smart-minded business-minded individual,
Which
would
they're not.
you stop? Would you not make a game for the PS4? Or would you make the game for the PS4 and just upres it and import it to the PS5?
Right. Now, granted, like most people said, yeah, you might sound like a jet engine when you turn it on.
But
But hey,
yeah,
it is
I,
what it is.
yeah. So I mean, it's one of those situations where that's a business decision, and
Right.
yes, you should know they were going to do that. We're starting to come out of a pandemic, but
hmm
the problem is where those were made, They had to shut down 3 times.
Yeah,
So not a lot were being made.
exactly. But
And
I don't know. Like at this point, I'm curious to see the game because there were some things that the developer said were not possible because of the PS4 that the
mhm,
PS5 was going to make available. Now, are you going to take things out the game, kind of similar to what they were doing with the Wii U, even though it wasn't necessary? Or
mhm.
is it going to be a one-to-one representation minus a resolution drop or a frame rate drop? Like, I'm curious to see. I don't know, but all in all, for the presentation, it was a great presentation. But for whatever reason, and I put this on Twitter, is it's not doing it for me. It's just not tickling my fancy. I don't know. Like, is there something about it? Like, it's colorful. The dinosaurs are cool. The attacks and all that stuff, melee, that's all fine. But I'm like, I feel like I've been here, done that.
Because you have.
Right.
Because
Like
you
I'm
have. I mean, that's
kind of burnt out. Like, mm, mm.
and the other thing too is one of the main complaints about the first one was you couldn't climb or
And
anything.
it's still
So
the same thing. You still
and
gotta have the little yellow tabs to climb on.
yeah, so I mean, and that's and it's not fair to compare it to Breath of the Wild because they are
Right.
two totally different games.
Correct.
But the problem was Breath of the Wild when AJ Newman said you could go anywhere, he meant that.
Exactly.
Forbidden West was not made. Horizon was not made like that. So I
Correct.
mean, I don't like when people compare it to that because I'm like, dude, that's apples to zucchinis. You can't really compare that. It's completely different.
Yeah.
So and the games were designed to be completely different. So
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, I I like Horizon for what it is.
Right.
You
See,
know.
it was just me. Like for me, we said it before. Horizon is not a bad game. It's just when you get a taste of something, it can kind of taint the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
So while I agree, they're totally different games built totally different ways, totally different engines. To where you got a whole physics engine situation over there on Breath of the Wild, to where everything seems a little more linear on Horizon side. Cool, it's a great game. It's just I should have never played Breath of the Wild, and that's the problem.
Yeah, you play that game first, and that's
That's
gonna
the problem.
yeah,
It's
that's
an
gonna
issue.
happen. Unfortunately.
Right.
Um,
And not to say that, which another thing, yes, there's games that have done this before Zelda, but that's the same case with a lot of things. But some people just tend to do it better. And in this case, Zelda did it better
yeah,
than your Just Cause or your Assassin's Creed. It's not that okay, I'm first and I'm the only one that did it. It's that they just did it better and it just worked within the system better than most games.
yeah, and that's not a knock because
No,
once again, I mean they made a game that their fans have been wanting to see for a long time. They
correct,
wanted Zelda open world. They wanted it to be able where you could go anywhere, do anything, and they gave it to them.
correct.
They even gave them a motorcycle, which I'm not understanding, but okay, whatever.
Hey, it works. It
Whatever
works.
works. But yeah, that, so I'm watching that state of play, and I'm liking what I see. I'm still having some issues, but it's an early build.
Right.
Cool. I don't see the problem with it right now, as
No.
far as like people complaining, and it's the same thing that I had with Halo when they showed Halo Infinite. I'm like, don't see what they changed up the art style, and
That's
y'all,
that's scary for people.
yeah,
Like,
and I'm like, that doesn't. But I guess I'm used to it because I done played so many games where art styles have changed. I mean, they did it in
right,
Zelda, they did it in Mario, they did it
right.
in Metroid, they've done it in Star Fox, they've even done it in Smash on low
Yeah.
key. But
Hmm.
you're like, I'm used to seeing stuff like that.
Right.
So they changed it and people got mad because I'm like, yeah, I don't think y'all complaining about it was what changed it. I think they didn't have that multiplayer right.
And my thing is like, okay, they complain about the art style changing up. I can see if this was a series. This game only has one game in the series, and the second one's coming out. So there's nothing that you can state claim to or
Yeah.
say that okay, this has been the style for all these years. It's literally
Mhm.
been one game.
Yeah.
So if they want to switch it up, okay,
Let them.
see if it's better. Let them do it. Let them
Yeah.
experiment until they find something that works. And you never know, they may have had to change up that art style to accommodate this PS4 version.
Yeah, which is fine. I
Right.
mean, which to me makes sense from a standpoint. It makes sense because once again, Which size is bigger? 120
Mhm.
million plus or 10 million plus?
Considering the fact that they're still being sold, somebody's still out there buying it. So it's not like people threw away these PS4s, and let's not act like these PS5s are just sitting in the stores readily available.
Yeah, they're not.
Whether they're
So
being sold or not, or being shipped or being scalped, either way, they're not available.
yeah, because they just don't have the production. I mean, come on,
Right.
that's basically what this is.
Right.
You know, and I wish people would understand that. Like, take a step back, breathe a little bit, and kind of understand that. So we got to move on to the other topic this week that really just irks me to no end. Um, so okay, Bloomberg, love those guys. I'm lying, I don't. Um, they've come out and their sources have said that the Switch Pro will come out. It's going to come out. They're going to make an announcement before E3. They're gonna, okay. Time out. Flag on the play. Who is your source? Because Nintendo hasn't said anything
At all.
about anything coming out. And this is going to lead to, and I've seen video after video after video. Oh, yeah, now this proves that this is this. It don't prove nothing.
For 3 years, dude.
I'm
3 to
like,
4
bro,
years.
y'all have been, these, some of y'all have been saying there's going to be a Switch Pro since 2017.
Yeah, that's nuts. Like really stop and think about that. And then the crazy part about it, this is the insanity part of it. The ones that's been making videos that long are gonna tell you, I told you it was coming. No, you
Yeah.
didn't. You said it was coming in 2017. You said it was coming in 2018. So you were very specific about it when it was coming. It didn't show up. So just because I can, a clock is right 2 times out the damn day. So at the end, you were going to eventually be right if you keep saying it, of course.
And on top of that, once again, being honest, when this Nintendo cycle is usually their console life cycle is usually 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years was the Wii to Wii U.
Mhm.
They're usually 5.
Yeah.
Usually. So of course this will be the year if they're gonna release something. If they're gonna talk about their next thing, they talk about it this year for a release next year.
Yeah, because the 5th year mark is next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next March.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow, it's really been that long.
it's been that long, yeah. So
wow.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, why do y'all keep doing this? Oh well, this person said they have a source. I'm like, the beauty and the stupidity of they have a source is they don't have to name their source, and sometimes these people's source is themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, I know somebody that worked on this last week or a couple of months ago, but they're not on the project anymore, and they said this is what's happening. I'm like, all right, you got it.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, let's say we both agree it's a revision, right?
Yeah, I think it's a revision.
So outside of what is being said, or even including what's being said, what do you want from a Switch revision that you feel is not there now that needs to be there before we get the brand new whatever Nintendo's dropping supposedly maybe next year, if not the year after?
Ooh, they need to fix that Joy-Con situation.
Yeah, for sure.
They need to fix that Joy-Con. I'm just being honest. They need to fix. I've never had a problem with it, but then again, I have big hands. I use. Mm-hmm. I don't use the Joy-Cons. I use this. The Joy-Cons I have for Ring Fit and fitness boxing, but I'm not having to use that. Right. They need to do something about that. They should have done themes. They should have done folders. That stuff needs to be there. Other than that, they need to overhaul that OS.
There you go.
They need to overhaul the OS. But I don't blame them for not doing that because they did all that other stuff on other systems and people didn't. They pretend like they hated it. So that's, to me, that's what I think they need to address first, honestly. And then address, like, because a lot of those games do hit 60 frames per second. People just claim that they don't just because it's Nintendo. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's the weaker system. I'm not even getting into that right now.
Right.
But the thing is, if you make the game for the system, and a perfect example of that is Monster Hunter Rise.
Right.
If you make the game for the system,
you'll be good to go.
You'll be good to go.
Now, don't get me wrong. You can make the game for the system and it still run bad. because
Yeah,
there's pockets of Hyrule Warriors that kind of
that's
dip a
bad.
little
Yeah,
bad, yeah. But when it comes down to it, for me, when I look at this, if I have Nintendo exclusives and my current Switch, like I mentioned in Hyrule Warriors, sometimes with Xenoblade, things dip kind of bad. Like they get kind of bad if things get a little hectic.
yeah,
I don't know what it is because, like I said, I'm not Shadow. I'm not the tech guy like that.
yeah.
I'm not even going to get into it. But whatever it is that Nintendo needs to do in that regard, whether it's a RAM situation, a CPU situation, to where I can run that at a clean 30, or if the game meant to be 60 at a clean 60, cool,
That's what they need to do. Yeah,
right? So now, if you're going to keep the same shape in his body form, okay, update the glass, the screen or whatever. Like you said, Joy Cons, they have to have either a different shape. They got to do something,
yeah.
even
Or
if it's
let me go back to Wii Remote and Chuck.
right.
Give me the option to go back to that because I
Something
still
in
got
that
a
nature.
couple. Yeah,
Something in that nature. I would also say, cosmetic changes in the sense of like the game door, because sometimes it has a issue with not closing, the kickstand,
yeah.
heat I can't even say it right now. Heat distribution. And then also, just little tweaks here and there. Because I know for me, the biggest problem with the Joy Cons is the plus and minus button. I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to maneuver my finger in a certain kind of way to actually press them. You can't just go up there and press them as if you were playing on the Pro controller. So there's cosmetic changes I feel like they need to make. The software stuff, of course, we agree. Yeah, they need to update and rehaul that software.
yeah.
Um,
They
but
should have done it by now.
they really should have.
They
I
should
don't
have done
know
it by
why
now.
they haven't, but it seems like
Yeah,
they're kind of plugging and playing right now before they
yeah,
do that complete overhaul, because they're trying to get a feel and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Because even though they added the Nintendo Online button at the bottom with the rest of the stuff, it still pops up kind of awkward. Like you press it
yeah,
and it doesn't seem like it was meant for the OS. It was like afterthought.
yeah,
So there's some things they have to clean up, whether it's the eShop, because sometimes that thing runs awful. So I don't know if that's all on the tech side or if that's software. But either way, if you're going to come with an update, I understand the same thing with phones. If I go get an iPhone, let's say they drop an iPhone 13 today, I can probably get the same stuff on 12. The only thing that changed was possibly the build and the camera, but software wise, everything's the same. So I feel like they'll do that synonymous of a
mm,
software upgrade and then the much needed cosmetic changes and upgrades that they need as far as the console itself. But if I had any idea of what I wanted the whole family of your handheld only with the light, your hybrid with the Switch itself, and then you got the Plus or the Pro, whatever you want to call it, as the home under your TV console.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I would like.
I mean, that would make sense, especially if you start when you start talking. I hate these words. 4K. If you start talking 4K, you're gonna need something because the simple fact of the matter is, it. People love to sit up here and talk about 4K on these phones and stuff like that, but they are not. If they had it on there, their hands would burn up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So if you're gonna do that, then you need something at home because you need something with a fan on it.
Yep,
You
that's
just
true.
need something with a fan on it. So I I don't I think more revision than anything else, and
Yeah.
then they'll probably either next year or the year after be a full on whatever it is they're trying to get done or have done. They'll probably want to sell it then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as when they should show it, if they're gonna show it at E3, show it at E3. I don't. I would. It would be stupid to show it before E3.
The
It would be
only
stupid
the
to do that
only
before
thing I
E3.
would say to show up for E3 is to get the BS out the way, so you can say, "Hey, this game right here is running on this." So that
Well, we got like a week and a half though. That's why I'm like, if you were gonna do it, you would have did that in April.
true,
You
true.
wouldn't do it this close. You might as well just wait till E3.
But see, but I look back at the light in the revision of this current
Mm-hmm.
Switch that we have. They did that in like what May or
May,
April.
I think it was May
Well,
or
they did
April. Yeah,
April, and then they
but
dropped it in May, and then come E3 in June. Well, not E3, but would have been E3 in June. They would have had everything set up for it already. Why is my
yeah.
camera not focusing?
Hey, what's up, Andre?
Look, you having similar technical issues to me, boy.
And it
I
literally
thought it
just
was
did it. Like,
I thought it was my camera for me, and ended up actually being one of my USB ports on my computer was not getting enough power,
sounds
so
like
everything stopped working.
wow. Okay.
So once we're done here, I'll probably have to take my computer apart and try to fix it. But
Well, good luck with that, because I don't ever want to do that mess again.
Hey, sometimes it's like that. But we were just talking about our good Switch Pro rumor from Bloomberg. So your thoughts, dude?
this is what the fifth year that the same rumor has been repeated
They have
around
sources,
around the same time.
but they have sources.
Okay, well, I have sources too, and my sources say that there's a crock load of bull crap being thrown around. I mean, I'm not going to deny that there's a possibility.
Yeah, yeah.
In all likelihood, especially when you say the words $299 and replace current model, I'm
Right.
thinking it's just a revision. And for some reason, people forgot what a revision is, because there have been revisions of the PS4. There have
Right.
been revisions of the PS3, the PS2. There have been revisions of the Xbox 360.
Right.
Yeah.
And they all operated the same way as their base model. They were still the same machine
Right.
with just some tweaks to fix some issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If you planning on having a more powerful tablet come out with this system at the exact same price point as the one that is currently out, there is no way that it would. There's no way. It just doesn't make sense. Why would they price themselves out like that? It'd be stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It
you
would
mean
be.
tell me they couldn't even come up with a higher price for this upgraded model? Not updated, upgraded.
Yep. So Shadow, are you on the Bloomberg hype train for the Switch Pro?
Let's just say I think I got under the skin of a lot of people on the Spawncast last night.
Oh yeah.
I
Ouch.
was in the chat and they did not address any of the questions that I posed.
But that typically happens though.
But
Like
well,
they seem
because your
to ignore.
questions go against what they wanted to say.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, so nobody wants to this whole podcast. Nobody wants to talk technical, and somebody was like, nerd, and no, all the technical stuff is boring, is what I heard from RBT.
Spawn Wave is a nerd. Dude. He
Yeah.
is a tech nerd, dude. So
He
you would
literally
think
takes
he'd want
apart
to have that
stuff.
conversation.
Yeah, he takes apart more stuff than I do now.
Right.
I've only done a Mac this year. I haven't done a console, so you figure you want to have a conversation about something like that. If this is going to be a new chip, that means it's an entirely new SoC, which means there's a new design win, which means completely different specifications and all that kind of stuff need to be available, which means that there's a new SDK for all this stuff. So where's the new SDK and why hasn't it been leaked?
Right.
In addition to that, like the model steppings that they mentioned, all of them are still relating back to Tegra. They're Tegra X1. Every last model that's shown, every stepping, every code name is still Tegra X1.
Right.
So I don't know. What do you think? And you keep saying DLSS. That's not possible on Tegra 1. And even if it was, like, you could take like the shaders and turn them into tensor cores by some. I mean, you could do some type of firmware mapping or whatever to rewrite the shader, and it could be a tensor core instead of a shader core, right? So you can have a number of tensor cores remodeled to do the anti-aliasing, kind of akin to what DLSS 1.0 does. But you got to call back home to get the model updates for how the pixels are going to be changed and reshaded for the next frame. Nobody has an answer for that.
Online connection.
Yes, somebody in the chat try to reply to me and say DLSS 2.0 just runs natively on the graphics card.
No,
I'm
it
like,
don't.
no, because on my 1060 right now, if you try to run 1.0, it asks you for a specific executable and it asks for updates for that executable every hour or so to make sure that you're still using it, and it updates the shader cache in your GPU to make sure that it's rendering what it needs to render. So I called out that specific application. I can't think of the name of it right now. It's an NVIDIA shader name, executable, what have you. But it calls out. You get a notification for it every time while you're trying to run DLSS. And I never got an answer for that. Then we got into arguing back and forth about whether ARM is x86 and all this other kind of foolishness. And I'm like, it doesn't really matter because ARM isn't an architecture; it's just a design. Architecture is RISC or CISC, like whether it's it reduce or complex instruction set, and all kind of craziness ensued from there. And that's just in the chat because obviously they ignored all of that in the chat and just only read super chats.
Shadow, it's because you don't have sources.
Oh, just like them. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like them.
But I don't have sources, and I still somehow figure things out.
Because they listen to you, Andre, and they want your ideas for free. I told you, you need to market this.
Yeah, you really should get paid.
You are the source.
You should get paid.
I'm like, how many times do we have to go through this? If I see 4 things that you did videos on at E3, which I'm pretty sure I am.
You know what I was thinking about doing? Just for the heck of it, doing the things that I think are highly unlikely to happen at E3.
And watch 2 of them happen. And watch 2 of them happen.
You need to go with a whole like psychic theme. You need to have like the glass ball and everything, and just like I predict this, and boy, I'm telling you.
So we can ask the same questions all over again, right? Switch Pro is this, okay? Let's say it does exist. Now we have to answer these questions. What is the storage medium for games? If we're going to have native 4K games, even if we're going to have DLSS, at some point, those textures need to be interpreted some type of way with larger bandwidth and larger file size than currently what we have right now.
Right.
What format is that? Also, that means that the console is going to have more memory because now you're going to be writing to a bigger frame buffer. And unless the successor to Switch or whatever this is supposed to be has its own dedicated pool of VRAM, specifically for the frame buffer, then you're going to need to increase the amount of main memory you have in the system. Currently, right now, there's 3 gigs of RAM that games use from Switch to do everything. From textures to frame buffer, back buffer, all that kind of stuff is done within those 3 gigs of RAM that you have within your development environment at runtime. So that's going to have to increase if now we're going from 720p to 1080p assets in some cases to now your frame buffer is 4K. Where is that frame buffer going to reside? Because now you need more space for that, and now you need larger textures for that. Where's that gonna go? Where is the new code? There would be some places in the new firmware to where you can throw the new version, new model. They're gonna have new C++ modules. They're gonna have new containers. Say it supports Unreal Engine 5. There have to be dedicated hooks in there if it's going to be a target host for Unreal Engine 5. Where are those? And the way hackers are just looking at this firmware every day, they should be there. Unless there's some update that Nintendo is hiding. Yes. Right. And typically Nintendo's not trying to hide it. They just they throw it in the firmware and say, hey, there's some updates or whatever. If you go read it and you see that stuff, then you just see it. Right. They're not really trying to hide anything like that. And that's how everybody found out about the Switch Mini, the one thing they claim to have called right. But they also tried to call Switch Pro then at that time too, and it just ended up being an upgraded model of the current Switch.
Which is why this is probably just another revision. It's not.
Well, but here's an even better question: why does everybody think they're just going to jump to 4K? Like, I'm just saying, you got the Xbox Series S out on the market, and that's 2K. So why would they jump to 4 instead of 2? Like, if I'm just speaking,
Returnal is 1080p.
Right.
Yes, it is. But I'm just saying.
And so is Avengers.
Right.
But just speaking logically.
Right. When you speak logically, you look at it. There's no reason to jump to 4K other than to say, "Ha, I got the best thing that's out on the market," when you don't have the best thing that's out on the market. So it's one of those things of just trying to. I don't want to use the term, but the what swinging contest. So that's where we're at with it. to say like I paid this much money for this console and this console can do this, so I'm justified in my purchase. Let's keep it honest. That's why people buy the things that they do for these consoles. Because like I mean, me and Shadow said before, Jay, you said it too. There's no reason to have either of these consoles right now.
No,
Because there's nothing that really justifies their purchase, because everything can be played on their previous console.
I mean, they're great. They're fine. It's just,
yeah, for sure.
Which both companies said they were still supporting them until 2023.
Right.
People are acting like, oh, Sony just never made that. No, they didn't. They said that back in 2019.
yes.
Right. So now if you look at the Switch, there's no way in the world, if I'm Nintendo, if I'm looking at this from a business standpoint, they've already said things on the terms of letting this exist for 10 years, right? The Switch platform.
They about to crack 100 for the end of the year.
Right. So why would I go to something brand spanking new when these new consoles just got on the market and I'm still outselling them? Why would I show my hand this early?
You're outpacing Wii and PS4 at this point.
Exactly. So why would I show my hand this early? It makes no sense.
No way I would. There's no way I would. So yeah.
And then again, it goes out of the cycle that Nintendo normally operates in anyway. Right. They're still stuck. They're the only ones that are still in the traditional 5 to 6 year, whatever map, 4 to 6 years or what have you. They're still the only player that still does it that way. Sony and Microsoft couldn't afford it, so they extended theirs out. Nintendo is still like, well, Wii U didn't do well, but we still got to ride it out for 4 more years. And that's what they did. Right. And now we have Switch. And then Switch, whether it's successful or not, they're just like, oh, well, maybe we can squeeze an extra year or 6 months out of it, but we're still doing 4 to 6 years. Yeah. And
if I'm selling like hotcakes, why would I stop?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I'm still the cheapest option. I'm still the mobile option as well as the current the good option. And one more small tidbit that I found to be completely hilarious. Monster Hunter Rise sold 7 million.
Yeah.
There's 7 million. So this proves what we've all said before. If you make a game for the system, it'll sell third party.
I said lead platform.
Yeah, make it lead platform.
Yeah. Monster Hunter Rise proves it. 7 million.
Hold on. You know what proved it? PS2 proved it.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah,
PS2 proved it.
But you got to remember, Sacrifice, we got short-term memory loss in the gaming community.
That console did everything graphically in software, and it was still lead platform for damn near 10 years. Nobody changed over and said we're leaving that tech because it's old, like they're trying to say now.
Shadow, why you bringing up the past?
I'm just saying that people pick and they choose.
Oh, heck yeah.
Want to go and say, oh, well, we need to go forward with this new technology for our vision.
Bruh, Iwata told everybody back in 05 at GDC. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean,
told everybody in 05 at GDC.
And this all happens in the business room. Like, whether the console is strong or weak, it happens in those business rooms and who you shake hands with.
GameCube proved it.
Yeah.
Nintendo said, we have a more sophisticated system. System came out. Developers are like, them licensing fees, though. We got to come up with some excuses.
The mini disc, man.
The
mini disc. Everything more secure.
It's the fill rate on GameCube is not that high. I'm like, wait, what fill rate are you talking about?
It's a purple lunchbox.
Hey, it still look good. Hey.
Yep. It's a purple, black, platinum, orange, burnt orange. What other color they had? Transparent.
That's the one thing I wish that these companies would do. Have remasters of consoles. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Instead of games, I want a remaster of a console. My GameCube and Dreamcast, I want that back.
Yeah, just bring that back. Just straight up. I don't want to see. I don't want to see a web browser in my GameCube. I want to see the little cube spin up, and I put a disc in and go.
Yep. And sell it with the Wavebird, but just make the Wavebird a little bit better.
I just put Rumble in the Wavebird. I'm good.
Yeah, good.
That's it. That pretty much fixes it. Okay, so we're at the halfway point. So let's talk some fun stuff. So it's that time of the year, first half of 2021 in review. So, what did you guys find that was a game that actually struck you as actually pretty good in this first half of the year?
That we've been playing, or games that were released this year?
That we've been playing, man. Don't do the release.
Okay.
We've been playing.
Okay.
We keep it real over here, man. We play these games.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. Well.
A-Town.
Oh yeah, Trae Young all day.
I
Yeah,
could
RG's mad about
say,
that too because he's a Knicks fan.
yeah, I could say, Control was a game I didn't think I would like when I started
Mm.
playing it. It's actually the reason I didn't think I'd like it is because it got all those accolades without having actually been around long enough for anybody to give it any
Right.
attention.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I
that was
don't know
kind
if
of
I'm
gross.
really, I'm not sure if I'm really going to like this game. And I ended up trying it because my fiance was the one that said she saw it and it looked interesting. I'm like, you know what, I'll try it. Ended up liking the game more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Shadow.
That game does look like a game that I would like, so I definitely want to try that next. Well, for me, I'm backlog Joe, so of course that's Streets of Rage 4 again. That was my game of the year last year. I can't
Waiting for that
stop
Mr.
playing
X
that
Nightmare
game.
to come out.
Man, oh my god, that game is so it's flawless. I don't know how to explain. Like you start a game and it's really hard to stop. I don't know how to even explain how they did that, but they put crack in that game.
Oh yeah, they did. They did. They sprinkled a little bit on it, like David Chappelle used to say.
Yes, they sprinkled a little bit of crack on it.
Sprinkle a little bit of crack.
Other than that, it's really been it's been Hades.
Okay.
Obviously, I've been addicted to that for the past month. But that game is really good, and it's one of those. It's a roguelike, but they thought it through. Like, you quote unquote beat the game, but it's a roguelike. It's supposed to be endless, so they came out with a way for the story to make it endless. And each time you finish a rotation, the story still changes. I think I'm like 100 runs in now, and I'm still getting new story takes from people, because there's so much stuff to do.
Yep.
This game, I think this game took every bit of all the time when they came back from Transistor. I think they literally jumped into this game right after Transistor, and it's clearly the better of the three games I've played.
You're supposed to get better with everything you do. So
Yes.
they have. To me,
they've mastered what they do now.
So I'm guessing they figured out how to set the seeds up to have different hooks, so that you get
and they figured out a lot
every time.
They figured out a lot of the cons too that people had about the game. Like there was a lot of over narration in previous iterations of games that they had. So I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the narration early on in their first game. It was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of overbearing to me.
They paid for that dude to come voice act. He was going to talk.
He had to do it. But in this game, it's only necessary when people talk, and every now and then you get a narration voiceover, and when you do, it's almost like you want it to happen because it's sparse. It's not as, and you want to hear Hades speak as well. It is one of those games where it's just meticulous design. I think it seems to me like they actually did start like Nintendo does, and they started with, hey, we have a backstory, but that's going to be secondary to making sure this main gameplay loop works. How do we get the combat to work? How do we expand upon the combat from each of the weapons that you're going to use and make them fun through any rotation that you do? So clearly to me, like this is going to be my game of the year, even though it's a backlog game. I probably should have played it on Steam a long time ago, but this game is great, and it only gets better if you're one of those guys that you're like, hey, well, I'm a resolution prostitute or what have you. You can do crossplay with this guy too. So whatever save you have on Switch, you can just go ahead and finish playing on your 4K gaming setup, so you can play drawn art assets in 4K for whatever reason.
That's going to look exactly the same. Yeah,
it's cool though. It's just cool that they thought about all that. They basically made sure that you had a full functioning product once you purchase this game. So I'm pleasantly surprised with that this year. And so I took a break on this game, and then I came back to it this year to finish it. And that's Halo 5. That campaign is really good towards the end.
It's very good. It's underrated. People just didn't like the fact that Luke Cage was in it. and they wanted Master Chief. That's what that was.
So I think that I want to say, even though I'm a big fan of Metroid Prime art design, I want to say overall the art, the world, the story, and the interaction is better in Halo 5 than Halo 4.
Yeah, I actually got to
And I
credit
think,
myself through those.
and the way this story is going to be, it's going to be really horrible. But they're setting this up to be really good towards the end. It's going to kind of tell everything that was in the beginning, especially if you're a Mac fan, because you remember all of this stuff happening in a certain marathon game. But they kind of tell it. They tell you everything that's going to happen to all the AI. But they did a really good job planting you in different people's positions and showing you what's happening from different perspectives in that game. I kind of think that they kind of paid attention to the Call of Duty game. I can't think of the name of this one. Infinite Warfare. I think they kind of paid attention to how that campaign was laid out and how they were like, hey, this is a whole story, but all these people have a piece. Let's show you bits and pieces, and then at the end, you see how it all comes together. Right. That's kind of what they did here, and I know they did it in Halo 2. Like, well, now you're playing as Arbiter or what have you. But this is a little bit different because you're actually chasing. You're chasing and running away. You're being one part of the goal and being another part of the goal in different playthroughs, which is pretty cool. And you get to see a lot of different aspects and points of view of Halo lore that way. So right. To me, I thought that was pretty good how they laid that out. The vehicle combat is way better now. It's not as slow, and they have a combination of. They have a lot more playgrounds that are kind of reminiscent of Big Team Battle, like old Big Team Battle back on Halo 3, and they set those up in the campaign, and that's kind of cool how they do that. So,
Shadow, you do know that game came out in 2015, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Backlog Central. Yeah, I'm telling you, like, but it's really good how they laid it out, and with Halo Infinite coming,
nice to get some practice.
Yes, and that's a good layout for. So I stopped at what was it? I think Reach. I think was the last one I played. And then I was like, yeah, that was a really good campaign, but nobody's going to play this campaign. They're just going to jump in and play online, which is what most of people did.
Yeah.
And the same for Halo 5. I think the big thing about Halo 5 was I think it was the resolution increase on Xbox One X, I believe, was the big thing they did. Yeah, Xbox One X. They did the increase thing the year after that came out. And that was the big thing about that game. But on Series X, super clean. Everything's upscaled to 4K, and it was great. And they adjusted it for Dolby Vision and Dolby Audio all the way through too. So
yep, Steven Spielberg getting that check.
Yeah, but that's pretty much me for now. Other than that, like just been catching up on older stuff that I've been playing. Obviously, Xenoblade and stuff like that. So
right.
Yeah, and of course Mortal Kombat 11 because somebody wanted to argue about it because apparently I don't have this game on multiple consoles at this point.
Yeah, you don't have it.
Yeah, clearly
that box is fake.
Yeah, the box.
Yeah, is clearly it's fake.
You printed out your own box cover.
Hey, I've done that before.
Hey, Jack, what about you, man? What about you?
Stop. But for me, like what I've done for this year, honestly, it's been a mixed bag. But the key ones that I would say are like my top games that I played this year have been the run through of Celeste because I'm a fan of platformers. Like Celeste is awesome. Katana Zero has been a key one. Moss on the VR, and then can't forget Monster Hunter. Like honestly, it took me nothing but a hot second to run over 100 hours in that game. Like it took me no time. And that's not because I'm in a honeymoon phase. It's just Monster Hunter I've played since the Wii U. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played since the Wii U and the 3DS. And it's kind of hit and miss. Iceborne and Worlds were not really my thing. So when this came out with the different movement system and the way you can traverse and the monsters and the way you fight, like that's my game. So I mean, that's why I always sit down and I look at my entertainment center. I'm like, Xbox looks great. PlayStation, you look great. But all these games I just listed off, I'm playing them on the Switch. Like let's just let's keep it. I keep it real.
Yeah,
Like
keep it funky,
I ran
yeah.
through. I ran through Celeste. Now I'm hesitant to go through this B side. I really am.
Oh, it's a thing. It's a
Trust
thing.
me. I've seen it. I've seen it. You know, but it's because I already had a hard enough time as is. Because at the time when I was playing Celeste the first time around, I didn't have a Pro controller, so I was struggling with the Joy Cons. It was hell. But nonetheless, I made it through. I beat the game. So now I want to go through the completionist side of me wants to get the strawberries and get the B sides taken care of. And then also Crash. I almost forgot about Crash. My bad. So I played Crash 4. Now there's a part in Crash 4 that makes you think you beat the game, but in essence you didn't. So the game after the main two bosses come up, that's unnecessary. So to me, I beat the damn game. But on the back end, that unnecessary stuff for these levels, dude, it's a challenge and I love it. But nonetheless, Crash, Celeste, Katana Zero, and Monster Hunter. Those are my games for this year.
Okay. All right. For me, Monster Hunter. Capcom, y'all ain't allergic to money no more for some reason.
Look, they got their vitamin shot and they got cured.
Apparently. And Yeast 9, Monstrum Nox. And I know that game is coming out on Switch and PC in July, but I actually have it on the PS4 because it came out in February then. So yeah, if you're a fan of Falcom games, yeah, you'll like that. Also, Trails of Cold Steel 4. Yes, that game came out last October on PS4, but it's out on Switch and PC now. If I'm not mistaken, it came out in April. If you're a fan of that franchise, I highly suggest checking that out. Now, here's a game that I'm mad about, but I'm glad they actually patched, and that's Outriders. Outriders still has its problems, but they did patch it.
Forgot to mention that.
Unfortunately, I had to start the frig over because I chose Trickster and they still didn't fix it, so I had to start all the way over. But other than that, it does play well, given the circumstances. If you are a PC gamer, I suggest playing it on PC. I'll just leave it at that. I suggest playing it on PC.
Trickster is a really good class, though. That's really fun.
It is, but they should have found a way to fix it without you having to go. If you play it in the demo for some reason. Playing that character in the demo, whatever they did to patch it did not carry over.
Through.
Yeah, so what I wound up having to do was actually restart the game, and I was just, okay, all right, whatever. But it's still fun. It's fun, even though there are questionable things with hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, it is what it is. So if you have a chance, leave a comment. Let us know what you like from the first half of the year. I know it's May, and usually we do this in June, but the problem is we got E3 coming, and that's what we're about to talk about now. So
E3,
E3,
a couple days off anyway.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
E3 2021. What y'all looking forward to, man?
Switch Pro.
I said what y'all looking forward to. I ain't say,
Here's what I'm looking forward to. When Capcom decides that they're going to announce the next Mega Man Legacy Collection, which is probably going to be Battle Network, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, they can't let Sega outdo them, man. Sega just dropped a bomb. Like,
right.
They got all the collections coming.
You did do a video on this, did you, Andre?
No.
Did you do a video?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I did do a video on this.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
No, it's not like what happened where I said I wanted a Contra collection, then we heard about it the next day.
That's nuts. Yeah. At this point, if you've done a video, it's not a prediction anymore. I'm speaking facts at this point.
They over here sitting on games waiting to see if there is any like a hint of demand. They're just like, ooh, that's a GVI video. Okay.
Now, I'm looking forward to seeing that trailer for Breath of the Wild too. Like for sure, because I know Breath of the Wild's trailers were just over the top. And that got me excited to play the game because, like I told you, I'm not a Zelda fan by any means. It's just Breath of the Wild was the first one I beat. I've dabbled in all of them, but I've actually beat Breath of the Wild, and it made me go back and play Link to the Past and beat that. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this game, and I got a feeling it's gonna be a co-op situation in here too with Zelda.
I have something funny I'm thinking about though. There's no release date for Horizon Forbidden West, right?
No,
Yep.
and that's
Of course
smart.
not.
What if they not? What if they not giving the release date out because they worried about that? Just think about it. Last time this scenario hit, they dropped a whole month before Breath of the Wild. The moment Breath of the Wild came out, all you saw a bunch of Horizon Zero Dawn go back to GameStop and people traded in for
How many tombs are there now? Is Dark Cloud? What were the other Zelda killers? I'm just trying to feel it because they all end up dying.
Was the Zelda killer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
The only one that survived was Final Fantasy VII, but it didn't do what it was supposed to do.
Yeah,
that's the only one. The rest of them,
nope.
That's crazy.
Because you had Dark Cloud, you had Fable.
Yeah, Fable was supposed to be a Zelda killer also.
Wow.
And at the time, I don't know why they marketed it this way, but Skyrim literally launched the exact same month or week, actually, I think.
And Skyward Sword and Skyward Sword beat it. Well, the other thing too was that like Skyrim was virtually unplayable on the PS3.
Yeah.
Yes. Personally unplayable on all the consoles that even PC they won. Like it was mad patches were needed.
Yeah, it took till like that next year for the patch to get, but the PS3 was the one that people were highly upset about.
PS3 is still bad.
And then the Game Awards gave them Game of the Year that year. I'm like, wow.
I feel like that's always been centered around Bethesda's games. Like if it doesn't have glitches that we can make fun of, then it's not the game we want. Like that's the only game I've seen to where it gets praised for being bad.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, with nostalgia,
Dragon Age did too, though. Dragon Age was pretty bad.
The glitches are nostalgic.
Yeah, the glitches are nostalgic. I remember, I remember when they said that, man. I'm like, are you serious? Did you really just say nostalgic glitches? I'm like, okay. Well, personally,
go ahead, because you don't want to talk about the conspiracies, man. But it just looks really bad. You don't want to be like, so they conspired. No, but it just looks so bad.
It just looks bad. But yeah, what I'm looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2, only because I want to see what they do story wise. I want to see if one of my thoughts is going to come true about Ganondorf. I do want to see if Nintendo does say something about Metroid. I think you didn't have more than enough time. You need to say something.
Here's the announcement.
Say something.
Here's the announcement. We're remastering Metroid Federation Force.
Oh boy, that'd be too funny. But unlike last time, this time it'll get praised to watch. It'll get praised because it's on Switch.
Oh yeah.
That's the way it works.
I do want to see Halo. I want to see Halo Infinite.
True. Yeah.
I want to see it. Hopefully get a gameplay demo, but I want to see it.
I think we got to because they're talking about releasing it this year, right?
Yeah, they're talking about releasing it this year.
Not only a gameplay demo, but an actual demo.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
y'all think that makes it this year?
I think multiplayer makes it this year.
I think that game's coming this year just because they need something.
Yeah,
they do.
They need something.
Like, yeah.
They do. They do really bad
because they have nothing now. Because one game from that whole team that they were saying are eventually coming that I'm looking forward to is the Gunk. And I haven't heard anything about it since they announced it.
Nope. Yeah, and that's the Steam World guys.
Yeah, and that's why I'm looking forward to.
What's the other one? Hellblade 2, I think is the only other thing they have coming.
So
that's like a Shin Megami Tensei situation.
Yeah,
that was the first one out the gate and hadn't heard nothing else about
it. So I do want to see that. I know Sony ain't gonna be there, so that's unfortunate because I think they're another one they should be there. But or at least have some sort of presence. But I'm keeping my expectations in a controlled manner because I think that's why I hate all this. I have sources in this rumor and that rumor, and this is supposed to come out before E3. I'm like, dude, E3 is like a week and a half away at this point, and you really think that's a smart business decision? y'all ain't even using y'all head
No,
at this point. Y'all not using y'all head, and so I'm waiting. Like I've always said, I'm waiting for Nintendo to say something. When Nintendo says something, I'll say something.
Right. I mean, I go into E3 looking for at least one game, one title that has not been announced, and I know this year I'm looking for a WarioWare announcement because there's no reason for that type of game not to have existed with a way to rotation and Joy-Con.
Yeah, it should have launched with the system.
Any Wario.
Well, I mean, if you depending on what they're trying to do, and depending on who they got working on, because remember they got Garage Team working on a lot of stuff.
That's true.
So if they had Garage Team, if they're working on, I can understand it because they probably running like 3-4 projects right now.
Right.
Typically, it's an intelligent system that does the planning, and then they take some other third party to finish up the rest of it.
Right.
So I'm wondering, but they still do a lot of the planning for Smash Brothers too. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of. I don't know if they have the time in between, but they successfully did a bunch of WarioWare games on GameCube, Wii. They did 2 on Wii, and then they did a launch game, launch window game for Wii U. So it's been a while with regards to that, but with all the Smash Brothers stuff and other projects, and I'm pretty sure Intelligent Systems is working on, I don't know. The last WarioWare game obviously didn't do good on Wii U, so I'm not sure how that.
Bare bones, to be honest with you, compared to the other ones.
Yeah, and it was. They were trying to, make use of the controller and whatnot, but it was limited compared to WarioWare Wii. So
yeah,
so
smooth moves.
I wouldn't be surprised if that shows up. The one game I was hoping Capcom would give us a remaster or a next one, even though they're probably not going to do it because it wasn't them that made it. Beautiful Joe. I miss Beautiful Joe so much.
That's gone, and I hate they say that. That's
I just miss Beautiful Joe, man.
There's a lot of people that didn't touch it because it was on the GameCube. I don't
understand.
No, hold on, no, they didn't even touch it.
And then it came to PS2 eventually.
Yeah, they didn't touch it on there either. Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah,
touch
that's
it
what I'm
then.
saying. Like they didn't touch it then, so it's just like.
And that got Dante added to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we didn't get Dante, even though I didn't need him because I had Alistair.
Right.
Yeah. Still had the better version of that game.
Beautiful Joe had what? 2 main series, and then they had a fighting game or something like that.
It had two main series, one fighting game and one DS game.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And basically the fighting game was kind of like a Smash clone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was alright. It wasn't none to.
Wasn't nothing right.
Anytime somebody tried to duplicate Smash, it don't work. It just don't work.
It was better than PlayStation All Stars.
I know that's.
I was just about to say that.
Look, man. Look, man. Can y'all stop besmirching the name? I'm sorry, I can't even do that with you.
I mean, those guys needed jobs, man. So it's kind of unfair. They got sent home.
I'm not blaming them for the stupid decisions of the executive teams of the company. I'm just saying one game was better than the other.
Chanel said the last WarioWare game was WarioWare Gold on the 3DS. I don't remember what year that was. So.
Yeah,
was that after?
That was probably after Smooth Moves. Yeah, I think it was after. But there were several different WarioWare games on handheld because you had Shake It, Touched, and then
if it was after 2013 and it was the last one,
that's probably right.
Yeah. So
in regards to that, Beautiful Joe. There's a lot of great games that I would say I would love to make a comeback, but I think that's just a nostalgia talking in a way because some things kind of like movies should just be left alone.
Yeah,
if they do come back, somebody gonna mess it up.
Especially if it's not the original team doing it. Yeah,
right.
And I would want Platinum to have Beautiful Joe back.
Right, because Camille was dealing with that too, right?
Yeah.
Well, they were Clover then. They were Clover.
They were Clover Studios,
and they did Okami as well.
Yep, but they kept Okami. I don't know why they didn't get Beautiful Joe from whatchamacallit. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Okami's cool, but come on, I'm picking Beautiful Joe every time.
Me too.
I don't know.
That was supposed to be a Zelda killer too, wasn't it?
No, that wasn't supposed to be a Zelda killer. Nah, they just had the same cell shade style. That's all that was. They were kind of compare that because of the cell shading, but that wasn't supposed to be no Zelda killer.
Crazy how they found one little thing to make a comparison to.
That's what they do.
Well,
And so now you
That's the same
have
thing they did with Genshin Impact. They said it was Zelda.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
they
yeah.
just look similar. It's
I
not
see mountains
even
and they
like
look
that
similar.
game.
They're
Yeah.
gliding. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
and that
You
game
do the
ain't
same
even.
reads.
Man, I cannot get into that game. I
I didn't even
tried. I
touch
can't. I can't get into it, but it's just one of those situations. I hate when people try to do the Zelda killer or this killer or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
I hate that.
Well, there's some benefits to it because once a lot of people got smacked in the face when they tried to compare Horizon Zero Dawn to Breath of the Wild, that's when it made it good because Guerrilla Games was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. We do have this pretty water that we don't interact with at all. Maybe we should do that in the next game." And
Right.
And they did.
Hell, I'm gonna
So-
I'm gonna need There's one thing I do want Breath of the Wild to have is let us go back to the water and do some underwater stuff, and I need the dungeons back. I need the dungeons back.
traditional
Okay.
dungeons.
So from somebody that's very ignorant in regards to the series,
Mhm.
I've heard this argument before. Were they really that different?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
especially coming since the last game before that was Skyward Sword, and literally
It
the
has
best
some of
thing
the
about
best
Skyward
dungeon
Sword were the
design.
dungeons.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of the best dungeons ever made. Like,
Now you're gonna make me get the game when they come out.
yeah,
I mean, it's
Yeah,
worth
it's
it.
good.
It's
It's
worth
good.
it. That last fight is the best fight in the series. That
No,
whole
everything
run up.
to that fight, like
Yeah.
from the end of that dungeon, going outside and going all the way.
The last-
Basically, what happens with Skyward Sword Link is what they talk about happening with Breath of the Wild Link.
Yeah,
Is like
Yeah.
how he has a gauntlet that he
Oh, okay.
basically fights through.
he had to fight a gauntlet. He had to run a gauntlet.
Yeah.
He had to run a gauntlet, and then after running a gauntlet, he had to fight both bosses back to back.
So this is where you could tell that Monolith was helping with Zelda early on. They didn't get to finish doing everything they wanted to do with Skyward Sword, but they did do a lot with terrain and massive amounts of enemies. So towards the end of that game, you saw the limits of 88 megs of RAM. Like you're like, wait, is this a 360 game? So they're just gonna keep coming. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. We're just
it's
and the screen is full of them.
yeah, and you don't have a choice.
Wow.
You got to fight through them. You don't have a choice. Ain't no getting around. Ain't no stealth. It's you and them. And the way they use the camera, that whole last hour of that game is
It's really
y'all done
good.
sold the
Yeah.
game. Y'all done sold it. All right, I'll get it. I'll pick it up.
That's why I'm like when people complain about Skyward Sword getting a re-release and like it don't look good in this, I'm like, y'all didn't play that game.
No.
Y'all didn't play that game. You
No.
talking like that. You ain't play that game.
And you can see, and when you play Skyward Sword and then play Breath of the Wild, everything makes sense. And you didn't play it. Did you play it? Everybody's played the original Legend of Zelda here, right? Or no? Yeah. Okay. So there's y'all seen the video, right, of how Nintendo came up, how they use Havoc to recreate. Okay, so Breath of the Wild is literally the Legend of Zelda. They just redid the game. It's like go out, go be great.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of things that they were working on in Skyward Sword that led towards that game.
Mhm.
Hang gliding, you're
Yeah, I saw
sprinting,
that.
all of those things, how you plan, how you're going to go from one area to another, with your aerial mount or what have you. All that stuff was planned going forward in Breath of the Wild, and there was even more stuff they wanted to do in that game. Like they were talking about having an alien invasion and stuff. And
you were actually supposed to, like in Skyward Sword, you were actually supposed to play with Zelda. That was supposed to be the first thing to play with Zelda. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Twilight Princess was supposed to be the first game you actually play as Zelda. It was one section; they had to cut it. Skyward Sword was half of the game was going to be you playing as Link, the other half was going to be you playing as Zelda.
Yeah, and since they couldn't do that, they just showed you cutscenes from her viewpoint.
Yeah, from her viewpoint. And that's why I'm like, yeah, that's how I knew it was coming. I think what happened, though, when people started demanding it was Hyrule Warriors. When they did that first Hyrule Warriors and people got to play with Queen Zelda, and they saw how raw she was.
Not Zelda, Queen Zelda.
Yeah.
Even though on the American side, when they brought it over here, they called her princess. I'm like, she's the ruler of the kingdom. Why the hell is she a princess?
In the Japanese version,
dead.
In the Japanese version, she's already sent it to the throne.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody was making fun of Link when she kept looking. She kept coming to the courtyard, looking at it like, oh snap! So that's why everybody was making fun of him. Or
they made it canon in Zelda 2 only though. I guess because in Zelda 2, basically everybody's dead.
Yeah, everybody said it's too.
But she's the queen
yeah.
in Zelda 2. So
so and you got to play as her. She is that raw, and people like, yeah, man, they gonna have to. I'm like, yeah, Nintendo, y'all done messed up now because people got a taste. They gonna want to play as her, and they have not stopped since.
Surprised there isn't a game, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you play as Sheik in these games.
It was supposed to be Twilight Princess.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be Twilight Princess. The whole Zelda and Sheik thing was supposed to happen in Twilight Princess, but they had to cut it due to time constraints.
Yeah, that sounds like a shoe-in. Like that's
yeah.
Especially if you're playing Smash.
That was supposed to show off how warlike that version of Zelda was.
Yeah, because that version of Zelda, Twilight Princess version of Zelda, she would walk the dog on you.
Thorough.
Wow.
Yeah, she was efficient.
And she was willing to die.
Yeah, and the
only reason, who was it, Zant?
Yeah.
Right? The only reason he even got where he got with her is because he had an army ready to kill her people.
Yeah,
and she wasn't willing to let her people die.
And she yielded.
Yeah, that's the only reason why she yielded. That's why that's another reason why I be laughing at people that don't have reading comprehension skills. I'm like, y'all can't understand why this happened. Like,
let that man had showed up by himself.
Yeah,
or had brought his army to that castle, they'd have been wiped out.
Yeah, she would have took his head.
I would say also don't underrate how smart this woman is too.
Yeah, because
in a lot of these games, not every last one of them, sometimes it's the goddesses, but she's a goddess too. In a lot of these games with regards to Twilight Princess, especially Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, she's using Link and Ganon. Because certain things have to happen. So she's making sure that, hey, well, since he started this shit, this is what I'm going to do to make sure this happens here and this happens here. She sent this man to another dimension so he could come back and take out Ganon while he was seizing power at the last minute. It's like
Ocarina of Time showed that. Ocarina of Time showed how she is. Like the chess game that she be playing is ridiculous. Like, yeah, it's a chess game and she usually plays to win.
Yeah. So it's kind of messed up if your player character is a pawn, but it's a perfect pun for what you're doing too.
Yeah.
Because you're just playing a character and then you find out the entire time the game was playing you. But it makes sense for the story going forward because there's a lot of warring factions and a lot of hidden agendas between all the people in this fake world or what have you. And it's not just a simple Nintendo game.
Y'all thought Game of Thrones was deep.
Nah.
This shit deep.
Difference is these games require you to read. Game of Thrones, they got voice actors, so I think that's where
that's why
this lore gets missed.
Yeah, because like the lore of Legend of Zelda and probably the lore of Fire Emblem is so deep, it's ridiculous.
Right.
It's ridiculous at this point.
Wow.
That's why I would tell anybody. Hey, I would tell anybody if Nintendo was smart, they would have capitalized on this whole Game of Thrones craze and just went and just straight up had animated Fire Emblem. Just do the animation.
They were talking about like that's how they were doing with Super Nintendo games at the time. They would look at movie ideas and kind of go off that way.
I mean, hell, that's how
Metroid happened.
That's how Metroid started. Because it was Iwata, Gunpei Yoko, and somebody else went to go see Alien. Yeah, Miyamoto, they went to go see Alien. And came back and was like, okay, they
granted, I mean,
with a game
nowadays as far as good movies, but I guess you could say
if I remember right, they were already kind of working on that concept, but
they didn't have an idea. Yeah, they
didn't have an idea to push it forward, like because the game engines were already written for NES. It's a couple of videos that show like they had already planned to make these games, and so they made kind of spiritual clones for all of them. So like Zelda has another game, and I can't think of the name of it, but it's he's a guest character in Smash Brothers, but he basically he's a samurai. He goes through wiping out enemies on the NES or the Famicom over there, and he eventually gets
Castle.
Yes,
Castle, yeah.
And he eventually gets to the castle to be able to do whatever, and it's literally Zelda, like it's the Zelda engine, and going from there. And then Metroid and Kid Icarus were the same engine as well.
The same engine, yeah.
So they already had stuff in place to where they were going to make games. They just needed ideas like to create the sprites, the characters, and all that kind of stuff to go forward. Because the code and everything else they were working on was already there. So they used existing stuff, and then now they've created their own franchises. So there's no need to really. They can write forever, really, with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean the way they set up Zelda is they essentially change Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf every game. And just make them have different personalities.
Yep.
So if you follow the game, yeah, it's the same three characters, but they're different because every Link,
different people.
Yeah, every Link is different from the last Link. Every Zelda is different from the last Zelda. Every Ganon is different from the last Ganondorf. So it's really a testament to how they did that series. That's why it's one of my favorite series ever. Period. So,
but I still feel like Twilight Princess, Link, and Zelda are the most hardcore out the group.
They're the most that Link is the most vicious one. He's the one that'll kill you for no. He'll kill you if you touch anybody he care about.
So that's the
violent one.
But he was the one that was already knighted as well. So he has deep devotion to Zelda at that point in time. So everything must die at that point. So, and plus he already met Dark Link. So,
and plus the other thing too about that is that you're basically getting attacked by pretty much orcs and goblins. That's the one game where they straight up ripped Lord of the Rings and nobody got mad about it.
That's what they wanted. Like they even put it in the trailer that way. Yeah. Like they just really like this is going to be Lord of the Rings, and everybody cried. Everybody cried when they saw it.
So, I was laughing because I'm like, dang, New Line Cinema about to sue. They really did. They literally ripped the ride of the Rohirrim. They ripped it from 2 towers. Like what?
So key notice. That was the first time 2 Zelda games launched on the same platform since NES.
Yep.
So
I don't think that's gonna happen again, but yeah.
Well, I mean, if Breath of the Wild 2, we'll see.
It does depend on the release date. Yeah.
Rumors of do you think Nintendo could do 10th generation? What if they just say fuck it, right? And
I don't think they're gonna say that. But I don't think they're gonna say that. But
I mean, they won't say fuck. But if they just say, you know what, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna move next generation or what have you. This is our new home console, Nintendo, whatever. Right. And then you're like, oh, it accepts Nintendo Switch cards, done, and that's it.
Well, to be honest, I just want them to go back to the back compatibility since they the ones that started it.
Yeah, just make a Wii U with that takes Switch cards.
Yeah,
man,
you do that, man. We're popping. So
I mean, that's exactly what I've been asking for. Like it's just I just need the Wii U back, but just like change it up like to where it works with the Switch.
Yeah.
Bring me back the Miiverse. Bring me back the Miiverse.
I mean that would catch everybody off guard. And
that would.
They would literally jumpstart a generation again. And they don't alienate anything because they still sell Switch. And now they got a brand new console out here that takes Switch games.
Yeah.
Done.
And
if they don't go back to disc, they're good. They can stick with cart format from now on.
Well, cart formats are more inexpensive
for now.
For now, anyway. But the way they have them, I'm like, dude, you can go if you go into Best Buy, you can go get a 16 gig card for what? $15?
Yeah. So Nintendo's problem is security. So they have a deal with the same people that made the Splash memory subsystem for GameCube. They still have a deal with them, and they made memory cards for the 3DS, the DS, and now the Switch. Right. Extra ROM is what they call it because it's both a ROM read only that's encrypted that nobody can see, and there's a flash portion of it that's flashable, that's readable, that only Nintendo can flash to. So they want to be able to increase the size of that, but as a custom customer, and they're the only people that buy this, it's prohibitively expensive for them. Mm-hmm. Even though Flash went down in price per sale to them to make that custom ROM plus NAND flash together is way more than just a NAND flash chip would be, because you got to have the security plus the NAND read write. So, and every time I mention this, I just say, "Hey, Extron prices haven't gone down per pin," and people are like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm just like, "But you're gonna tell me that 64 gig cards are gonna come out this year in 2018?" No. So
I mean,
it's
you can get them made, but
yeah. I
it'll
mean,
be ridiculous.
gonna be
it'll
a
be
lot
more
more
expensive. I
expensive.
think there's
Yeah.
one. I think there's one 60. Dragon Quest was 64 gigs, wasn't it, or was it 32? I think it was
32.
32.
It was 32. Like,
So that's the highest capacity card currently right now. It's 32, and then I think The Witcher uses it too, right? I
Yeah.
yeah,
think The
which
Witcher is 32 as well. So it's not cheap, and for them to move forward, quote unquote, doing 4K, uh, you got to be
you
able to write
just
those.
download it. Just download it. Just
Yeah,
download it.
Yeah.
Just download it. Just
I mean,
don't even.
that's where we at now with the other consoles. You have a
Yeah.
disc that's pretty
SD
much
cards,
DRM
and
at this
just go from there.
part.
But I know they want to still sell physical media, and
Right.
that's because the whole thing is they have to license software too. So they make a lot more money when they're helping license games that are getting published on their platform. So it's in their best interest to have some type of physical media that is still feasible
Well, their
going forward.
games.
But I don't know how you do that with 4K and all that.
Well,
Their games
but
could still be that small.
yeah, their games can because they know they do stuff with compression that makes literally no sense.
Right.
So
Yeah, but they gotta.
the gig. I'm like, I
They
don't
want to make the licensing fees off third parties though, so they got to figure out a way to tell them, "Hey, look, either optimize your games, or we have this little doohickey that will do X for you. So when you're done with your game at runtime, we compress it down, or we have this special fabrication for high capacity games or what have you, so we can run high capacity 512 gig whatever game. So you just
they do have that's a whole nother conversation though because
But if they did that and just said "fuck it," 10th generation, and then they either have that as an option, or they actually do go back to Blu-ray or what have you again, which they did do. I mean, they licensed out, they figured out a way to do
Blue
Blu-ray without
DVD.
Blu-ray.
China Blue HD.
That smooth disc, boy. Oh, that thing was smooth.
That thing is sexy. You can feel the
hard to
round
scratch
edge.
too.
Yeah.
Hard to
Crazy.
scratch too. That shit was ridiculously hard to scratch. But that's gonna do it for this episode. Glad you guys joined. So next week that's gonna be our pre E3 show. So we're just gonna talk E3 next episode because that Saturday is the 12th is gonna be E3. So next Sunday we'll just gonna be relegated to E3 pretty much for the whole hour. So Shadow, anything you want to pimp out?
Killer Instinct. Yeah. Killer Instinct. Shadowcast. Try to talk with Game Idea guy here, see if we can talk some Street Fighter 6 at some point. And I have a long video that talks about Switch Pro. It's a problem that's happening right now, and I hope that I'm proven wrong in everything that I say, but I have a strange feeling that I won't be. So just tune in. It's going to be long and in depth, but I'm going to go through how everything went left and what's the problem with gaming media and just YouTubers in general.
Yeah, that's a long video. Just
yeah,
saying that. That's a long video.
That's gonna be a
It's
long
gonna be
one.
long.
All right, Andre.
I mean, well, if you go to my channel, you actually won't find some content has popped up. So all you gotta do is go check it. I got a few other things that's gonna be dropping. If I get them uploaded tonight, they'll be dropping tomorrow because I already have them on Anchor, but I don't have them on YouTube yet.
Okay, all right.
That's always the easy part. Putting it on Anchors. The YouTube is the issue.
Yeah. All right, Jack. Anything you want to pimp out?
Yeah, man. Follow on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I have a link tree now, so that way you can just click one link in the bio and it shows you everything. Getting prepped for this album. Hopefully it comes out on time. I'm just kind of waiting for some verses to come through, but after that, man, just looking forward to see how people respond to it. I'm gonna market this one a little bit better than the last one. But yeah, just looking forward to that. So be on the lookout. I'm not gonna promise any content other than what me and Andre may have come up for an idea of a game that I've been circling around my head for years now, since I played the original. So definitely be on the checkout for that. But other than that, man, that's about it.
Oh yeah.
All
And
right.
speaking of that, I do have a poll on my Twitter for anybody who's listening. Please go vote on it for whether or not you guys want me to continue late Friday night. So y'all want me to do like some like Saturday in the evening
I vote the last
for 'em.
option. Just make them.
Just make
So
them.
can I
Put 'em
talk shop real quick just for a second too?
Mm.
All right.
So a lot of people don't really watch this live, but they do come and watch it after
Yep.
the fact.
Sure do.
I ask that as you come after the fact, like the video and share
Yeah.
it, please.
Too many
Please.
views and too little likes. I've seen
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going into my new spiel.
Yeah.
As a YouTuber, I would like you to know if you like our content, please like, share, and subscribe.
Just do it.
That hurts.
Easy. Free.
Okay.
Press the button.
You need a Shia LaBeouf thing to pop a gift.
do
Shia
it.
LaBeouf gift to pop
Yeah,
up.
I do. But no, for real, people. If you like our content, if you like seeing what we do, like, share, subscribe, tell your homies, all that other good stuff. We're trying to make connections with people, so have some guests on and all that other good stuff as well. So just be on the lookout. Also, we will be starting to do our podcast on Twitch as well as YouTube. Starting E3.
Gonna be famous.
So, like I said, if you like it, just share it out. Let everybody know all the other good stuff. We try to have a positive atmosphere here, crazy ish. So
That's what Shadow Castle for, man.
we try to be more laid back here. So continue to like, continue to support. We appreciate you. We really do. And we'll catch you guys next Sunday. Peace.
Peace out, everybody, and watch out for them. Watch out for them stealing my ideas.
Stay away from that dog food.